Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Sputnik, #1, a comic book anthology published by Black Eye Productions in 1993. Kind of looks like, by the looks of this cover, it's a photo cover by Michael Vrania, the editor. I think he was the main editor of Black Eye Productions and the owner as well. I think they were trying to have this crossover appeal, make it not necessarily look like a comic, almost maybe trying to get that same niche that Escape magazine had in England, where they had a lot of great comics, but they'd also have articles about other things, and even to a more extent, I guess Deadline was like that, with, articles about bands, so it would have a crossover appeal. This doesn't necessarily have articles about bands or anything, but they do interview a film director, Bruce McDonald. But they do it in a very unique way, which we shall see soon. I'm not very impressed with this cover. It's kind of dull. I'd much rather see a nice piece of comic art. But this was a really good, looks like it was going to be a really great magazine. I mean, we have this one issue, and I probably said this before, but I really liked Black Eye Productions, that the little company that couldn't. And they were basically another Drawn-In Quarterly. They're from Canada, and they were published a handful of titles, all really good. And we actually see examples of most of the comics they published represented in this issue by the artists of those comics. So here's the contents page. Black Eye Productions always had a very nice design. I mean, this Sputnik logo is really good. It's very elegant and cool looking. He has a little manifesto on Michael Vrania, basically saying we don't really have, the hard, fast rules about the content. There's no grand sweeping idea. He's hoping that the magazine will just come into its own, and it'll get its own identity just by appearing every 3 months. But that wasn't to be. We start off with an Atomic City tale featuring the Maniac Gang, and this is by Jay Stevens. And I think at the time they were publishing his Atomic City Tales comic. This story is called Night of the Monkey. So this is just chapter 1, which is unfortunate, because I was getting into this, and I'll never find out what happens. Maybe Jay Stevens continued this. He probably did somewhere else, because he had a much longer publishing career after Black Eye Productions went out of business. So we have Skidman and Z-Girl are sitting around watching TV. I like how they're watching Kids in the Hall. I'm crushing your head. That's what the TV is saying, because this is a Canadian production. And they're just having this kind of argument where she's like, something's bothering you, I know it. He's like, shut up, nothing's wrong, I'm fine. She just keeps pestering him. And as you can see by this art, it's very Michael Allred inspired. Though to be honest, I don't know. Michael Allred was definitely doing Batman at this time by '93. So it's more than homage, actually. If I was Michael Allred, I would be like, hey, knock it off. This really looks like him. And it kind of has the same feel too, like goofy superheroes. So there's not much to say, since this is the first chapter of a comic that I don't know if it was even finished. But it turns out Skidman just wants to go shopping. Apparently they're sequestered in his apartment because I think they're wanted criminals. So they go to this Doc Infinity, I think his name is. Let me see. Doc Phantom. I kind of like this, how he's a computer. Instead of a keyboard, there's a Ouija board. And so I guess he's like their oracle or their leader. So he says, I guess you guys could go to this one mall, but you all have to go together. And you're going to have to get Fanatic Man to come with you. So Fanatic Man is the third member of their trio. I really want to read more about Fanatic Man. He looks really cool. It's like Doctor Strange times 50. And I guess next issue they would have won shopping. Well, I'll never know. Next we have Dylan Horrocks with The Black Sun. I like this, how all the stories have a little, most of them have a little mini bio of the author. There's a really interesting story. It takes place in France. We see this guy. He's traveling to this small town somewhere outside Paris. I think it's just a dinky little town somewhere. And he notices this woman on the bus sitting in front of him. I really like Dylan Horrocks' style. Definitely unique. Like just that simple face. Look at that schnoz. His giant noses. So apparently this guy is there to visit his parents. They've retired there. They used to live in Paris, where he still lives, the young man. His parents have become kind of almost like bigoted, conspiracy-prone people talking about how the Muslims are, more and more Muslims are coming in every year, and they take our jobs, and they breed like flies. They're infiltrating its conspiracy. And so the son tries to ask his mom, like, Dad doesn't really believe that nonsense, does he, Mom? And it sounds like she agrees with him, with the husband. She's like, your father isn't stupid, you know, you just don't understand. Look at these crazy charactered faces here. This is way beyond what Dylan Horrocks usually draws. These are pretty zany, like William Steig faces. So he goes to this cafe and he sees that woman from the bus, strikes up a conversation, and he tells her about his parents. He basically thinks they've gotten a little mad. So the following day, the father insists that the son comes to this meeting at the town hall. All the locals are there, and they seem like full of paranoia and suspicion. The main speaker, apparently this conspiracy is weirder than the son realized. Because they're not just saying that these Muslims are invading the country. He's saying that they're actually aliens from outer space. So, I guess I think he brought along this new friend of his. Oh no, this is just him telling her later, sorry. And he's basically talking about it. It's like, I can't believe these guys are serious. This is crazy. And then she says, let me show you some magic. And the leaves start falling, and she kisses him. And the leaves continue to fall. It almost seems like she just disappears in these falling leaves. Kind of an interesting little poetic moment. So then the son comes to his parents' house, and that guy from the meeting, he's like, I caught one. It's a little one. Put up quite a fight, but I caught him. He's in my barn. He's in a shed. And the father's totally into it. He's like, I'll come after church. We'll deal with him. This alien. He has a dream that, you guys, I totally forgot a major interesting part of this story. I'm so sorry. In the first page, even though it has nothing to do with the story really, the sun has turned black. No one understands why. Nothing has changed. The days are still warm, and there's still light, but the sun is black. So everyone's kind of full of fear and confusion. I don't know how I forgot to tell you that, because that's a very interesting, almost like a J.G. Ballard little, I guess more like Borges, like just a weird little thing going on. So that night, let's get back to the story. The son dreams of the old sun in the sky. He says, I had missed it so much. I couldn't look away even though it would blind me. It held me in its grip, burning, ecstatic. And then he wakes up from the dream. I really like this page as he's staring at the sun. He's going blind, basically. Just all this white and just that white panel there. I'm always a sucker for that kind of stuff. His art is just so simple and so effective to me. I really like this. So the kid, the son, wakes up. He goes to that barn, the neighbor's barn, kicks down the door, and it's this poor little kid. He's of Islamic descent, probably. And he's going to rescue him. That guy shows up for the meeting and says, I always knew I couldn't trust you. The traitor has his own kind of particular stench. 10 steps is all you get. Start counting. And the son starts walking with the kid. And then I don't understand this ending. I'm not quite sure what's happening here. It seems to be the woman that he's been hanging out with. And thinks she's barring his way, as if she's part of this group of who think that Muslims are aliens, and it just left very nebulous. He just looks at her holding the kid, and that's the end. So I'm not sure. If you have any ideas, I'd love to read them in the comments. Maybe I missed something. I'm not quite sure what's supposed to be happening. Maybe Dylan Horrocks wants you to not really know. But again, look at the way he draws this face. It's just like a dot, 2 lines. That nose is just a long rectangle, and the brow is just a line. It's almost like Alex Toth in its simplicity. Next, we have a Randy the Skeleton story. The Stock Statue Story is the title. Now, these are written by Ian Carney and drawn by Aidan Potts. Now, I could be wrong about that. I've seen these stories for years in many different anthologies, even like smaller dinky fanzines, even though it's so pro-looking. I think maybe these guys were in heavy metal even. But over the years, I've read a bunch of these Randy Skeleton stories. I've always enjoyed them. It seems like nobody really cares about them. I've never heard anyone mention them. But this guy's an amazing artist, as you can see. This is great stuff. But I wanted to say, all these years, I'm just assuming Ian Carney's the writer because he's the first name. And Aidan Potts, I assume, is the artist because he's the second. I could have been wrong all these years. I didn't want to look it up. Sorry, I'm lazy. But Randy the Skeleton stories are always full of like funny surrealism. They're always fun. And God, this artist is great. I guess I'll just call him Potts. So we see Randy the Skeleton just thinking so fast that all these things are popping in his head. It just shows like, it's almost like Bill Elder, like just all the weird stuff he draws in the background. We see a tank in a bottle, and the tank says Rosebud. Instead of a sled, it's a tank. Just all these great little things to look at. And he's telling a story to all these children of the village or the city. And he's telling them about how all the statues have all gone on strike. And basically, they refuse to stay still. So they're just walking around, all these statues, gargoyles, and statues of famous people and angels from churches. And they start picketing. They have a list of demands. Standing still is not quality time. Guano on face, not nice. Rock solid, but no vote. And they actually start, they make their own religion. They start publishing magazines. Marble Week, Stone Woman's Monthly. Lose that mossy autumn sheen, says this magazine. They have their own bad TV shows. Man, I love this designer, very Mobius-like. And they even have rock bands. So the city moves into action. And basically what they do, they just send the Burgermeister. It's so weird. His name is R. Penny, like possessive R Penny. It's such a weird name. He basically, his plan is to just give in to all the demands. And he says, we're willing to meet all your demands. Please just get back on your pedestals. It's weird. One of the demands also is an X-Ray Specs retrospective. the great punk band. So the statues talk amongst themselves. And they actually agreed to just say, fuck it. We like being mobile. So they all run off to join the circus. And I just look at the way the buildings have been like tilted into the ground. Just so weird. He just adds all these amazing things to look at in the background. Just amazing surrealist touches. But I would love a Randy the Skeleton collection. I have a feeling that would never happen. Nobody cares. And I don't get it. These are great. Oh, I'm sorry. The story's not done. So the Burgermeister's freaking out. He's like, the tourist season's about to begin. What are we going to do without our statues? And Randy says, I have all these books. He's got like millions of paperbacks. And the Burgermeister says, I thought you only collected useless items. And Randy says, I do. If you look, I've ripped out all the copyright pages. So legally, these are unreadable. And then he makes this amazing, like, I don't know, these columns out of these paperback books. And I think you're supposed to look at the panel this way. But this, I love this. This is amazing. So they don't need statues anymore. This will be sufficient eye candy for the tourists. The Burgermeister's thrilled. Everyone's happy. They 3 cheers for Randy the Skeleton. I know this is so fucking weird here. Those kids, I believe these are the kids he was talking to. They're all crowded in this phone booth, just hanging. And they're saying, hello, is this Bibliokleptomaniacs Anonymous? I'm just calling to offer you the ideal site for your forthcoming annual conference. So just a very odd last little panel. I guess because there's books everywhere and these guys like to steal books. And so they'll be like a pig in slop. Last Punk in England by Carol Swain. We just looked at her stuff about a month ago. Her Way Out Strips comic. Love Carol Swain stuff. And this is a good one. We see like the narrative keeps showing us 2 different streams here. We see this person breaking into the London Zoo like a cat burglar. Meanwhile, we see this mom and her little kid saying, Mom, were you a punk? And she says, I bought a lot of records and went to see bands, but I wasn't really a punk. And she says goodnight to her son, puts him to bed. And now we realize that it's her. She's the cat burglar. So after her son went to sleep, she went to the zoo. And we see she comes up to the cage. It says Last Punk in Britain. And we see this punk rock guy in there with a mohawk. He says, hey, weren't you here earlier with a kid? She's like, yeah, my son. He says, what are you doing? She says, I'm going to let you go. So I guess earlier that day they were at the zoo, and that's why the kid was asking her about punks. Before they leave, he says, hang on a second. And he whistles, and all these wolves come out. And she leads him to the exit, and she wishes him good luck, him and the wolves. He's wearing a Ruts t-shirt, and the wolves and him run off. I just love that story. It's such a odd little kind of weird piece. I kind of want to know what happens to this guy and his wolves. So now we have that illustrated interview with Bruce McDonald. This interview is by Nick Crane. Well, the art is by Nick Crane, and the interview was conducted by Nick Crane and Michael Varanya. So Bruce McDonald, he's a director. He's made movies Roadkill and Highway 61. They're Canadian road movies. I never heard of them. But the reason why they're interviewing him is he was planning for decades to make an Ed the Happy Clown movie based on Chester Brown's Amazing Comics. And I remember reading about this in magazines for years and years. Those little tidbits like, oh, pre-production work begins on Ed the Happy Clown. But it obviously never happened. That would be I can't even imagine how that movie would look. How you could make that into a movie, but I would definitely pay to see it. So this was their shtick. Every issue they were going to interview someone, but it was going to be in comic form. So of course, they ask for dramatic license from the reader. They're like, okay, we have to gussy these up somehow. So we see Bruce McDonald, the director. He's on a road trip. He's hitchhiking. A guy picks him up. They start talking about, Nick Crane reminisces about when he was a kid. They used to have these Sunday night church outings, like some cool youth deacon would have the kids all come and they could rap about things. They could rap about drugs and rap about sex. In the 70s, that's what people called like serious talk. Like, we're gonna have a rap about this. It had nothing to do with hip hop. Basically, he admits that he used to go to those little get-togethers just because there was cute girls there. So he's talking about his beliefs, and he admits that he always sympathized with the devil. I like this. It almost looks like the Coop or something. Very cool-looking devil there. The only thing I had by Nick Crane is the cheese heads, which I think we might have made a video for. I don't know why I said we. It's just me. But I can't remember at this point. I've made so many videos, I lose track. But I think we looked at Nick Crane before in that Cheeseheads comic. I haven't seen much by him, though. He talks about how he worked on the movie Comic Book Confidential, that great documentary from the 80s. And he really wanted S. Clay Wilson included. He just says he's a fascinating speaker. But also he brings him up because S. Clay Wilson did all those great comics about angels and devils. So he continues to talk about his, his obsession with the devil and how he thinks he's the hero of the Bible. They obviously do things like this, like it's not just a talking heads comic, an interview. So he admits that his sympathies were always for the devil and what he's up against. Basically, God was just being a big dick. And Satan just didn't want to kowtow to him and lick his boot. He says how he wants to make a great movie about the devil one day. They go to a rest stop. He's like, oh yeah, I gotta use the bathroom. He says, here, actually, I'm working. This is the movie I'm making next. It's about this comic book called Ed the Happy Clown. You can flip through it while I'm in the bathroom. And the driver looks through the comic. I think these are actual panels reprinted from Yummy 4. I doubt Nick Crane is that good a mimic because it looks just like it. The driver thinks to himself, he's like, this is disgusting. What the hell's going on in this comic? So Nick Crane gets back in the car, tells him about Ed the Happy Clown, his plans for it, the way he sees it. He finds this great theme in it. This guy says, you should get Bruce Willis to be in it. He's good. So Nick Crane says, this is where I get out. And he says his goodbyes. And then the driver drives off, puts on some music, and he pictures himself as a director. And of course, it's this very glamorous, show-busy version of what a director is. Kind of has this little daydream fantasy. And that's it. So kind of interesting. Of course, you can't get really into heavy stuff with these drawn interviews. They're like 10 pages, and a lot of it's just art. So kind of interesting idea, I guess. But, I don't know. I guess it depends on the artist you get to draw it. This guy I really like. I'm not familiar with his work. This story's called Light Source. This artist is out one day. He stares at the sun. He stares at it a little too long. So when he closes his eyes, glowing forms and frothy lights dance on the inside of his lids. You know how that happens. He runs home back to his studio so he can capture it on canvas. I like how he says, St. Paul, blind Lemon Jefferson, my blindness shows me all. When he gets home, though, his eyes have adjusted and he can't see those visions anymore. And so he can't draw them. He stares at a light bulb for an hour, hoping that this 100-watt bulb will give him the same effect. But all it does is make his eyes water. And this is a guy, Bugato? Let me see his first name. Dominic Bugato. I'd love to see more stuff by this guy. This is some really nice looking stuff. I like his style. And then they have a mini comic profile of Adrian Tomine's Optic Nerve. This is back when Optic Nerve was just a self-published fanzine. And so it kind of, I always have these daydream things about comic companies if they kept going. So it does seem like if Black Eye Productions kept going, sounds like they might have signed Adrian Tomine because they were already onto him when he was just a youngin'. I don't know if you guys have ever read these early Optic Nerve stories. They published them in a book. I'm sorry, Toronto Quarterly published them in a book. And it's amazing. He's like, I think in high school or just getting out of high school. And he just came out of the gate running with these amazing, kind of mature stories. And especially considering how young he was. And he had a style that was very, just made for this kind of, not autobio, but short stories that read like autobio, just simple little things in people's lives. A lot of people said Adrian Tomine was the Raymond Carver of comics because he just told lots of short stories. So this one's called Leather Jacket. It's about a woman who had this really cool leather jacket. She started dating this guy. And he was like, hey, I should see how that jacket looks on me. And then he starts wearing it all the time. She doesn't really care. He tells her that it gives him security. When he wears this jacket, he can do anything. And After a while, though, it does really start to bug her that he's always wearing her jacket. A few months later, she finds out that he cheated on her. So she dumped him. When he came over to get his shit, he offered the jacket back. And the woman says, "You keep it. You're the one who needs it more than I do." So it's just a nice little vignette. This woman's obviously moved on, and she doesn't really hate this guy. She just kind of pities him that he needs this leather jacket just to have some confidence. This one's called Haircut. I kind of like this one. It's a dream comic. And Adrian Tomine is getting his haircut at this old school barbershop. And the guy keeps looking at his watch, and the other barber says, "Remember, Bill, 4:30. Kind of a weird thing. And right at 4:30, the barber throws his razors, his cutter down on the floor and smashes it. Adrian says, "What the hell's going on?" And he says, "The haircut is of the world of United. We are now on strike." And Adrian says, "Okay, but could you just finish my haircut? Half of it's cut off." And he's like, "Did you hear me? We're on strike." And then he says, "Relax. Who are you trying to impress? Who's going to see you?" And Adrian says, "Well, the whole world." And he laughs. The barber laughs and says, "You really don't know, do you? Come here, take a look, kid." And he opens the door, and the whole world is just this vast wasteland. And the barber says, "You're all alone." Really love this. Some really good drawing. I kind of like the way he used to draw way more than his style became. His style became a little too antiseptic and clean for me. I mean, he's a great cartoonist, but this looks a lot better to me. A little rougher around the edges, a little more detail, not as streamlined. This one's another little vignette, 2 a.m. This woman's in a diner. This guy comes up. Turns out they used to be really good friends in high school, but he had a crush on her, and one night he told her. And so that kind of queered the friendship. And because he's like, "Yeah, you pretty much rejected me." And then she says, "Hold on a second, Mr. Hurt and Innocent. I think you're forgetting a few details. How you basically lunged at me and tried to kiss me. And then you completely ignored me after that, even though I wanted to stay friends." And then the guy kind of realizes, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." But she says, "The funny thing is, I had a total crush on you. But I never had a boyfriend before. You were very aggressive, and I was a little scared." And he says, "Yeah? What about now? How do you think about me?" And she says, "What do you think?" And the camera just pulls back. And who knows what's going to happen. Almost looks like that famous Edward Hopper painting, the diner thing. And I love these little stories where they're just like, they don't really end in a climactic fashion. They just like, who knows what's going to happen? Just like life, They might never see each other again after this night, or they might end up getting married. Who knows? And here's another Tomine, which for some reason I suspect this was drawn for this magazine, because it's not part of that little mini spotlight. This one's great. It reminds me of like Charles Bukowski and Raymond Carver. More Bukowski though. "Train I ride. There was no one to say goodbye to. I just packed what I needed and started walking. I sat in the depot for 3 hours before I bought a ticket and boarded a train headed north. I had no set destination. No one was waiting for me. I had no idea where I'd sleep that night. Behind me was a steady job and a decent apartment. Ahead was thrilling uncertainty." It's almost like this prose poem. It's so great. And really like that one. So there you go, guys. Sputnik, #1. Unfortunately, there was never a #2 or anything else. And I really would have loved to have seen how this magazine would have progressed, and how Black Eye Productions would have kept, if they kept going. One of those, I know it's very different than Atlas Seaboard Comics, but I always have this thing for companies that lasted like a year or two and had all these great things going for them and then just went out of business. And I just can't help thinking about them and imagining what could have been. So that's just my nerdy preoccupation. But I hope you guys like looking at this. This is kind of, I have a feeling, very unheard of, this comic. It just kind of didn't go anywhere. I just picked it up by chance back when it came out. I've never seen it in a back issue bin. Never heard anyone talk about it, so I don't know. Black Eye Predictions kind of faded pretty quickly. And so hopefully you can find this pretty cheap if you're interested. It's definitely, I think, worth owning. It's a damn good anthology. Thanks for watching, guys. And hopefully I'll see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.